evening. You are night owls. Feel the pleasure of being here, and particularly at a place like this, a Pizza on the Park, because when I began working as a performer, it was in cabaret, and my first exposure to cabaret was at Pizza on the Park, and I sort of feel then, since then, I went out and found storytelling, and stopped singing quite as much. But given all the pleasure that you've had this evening, I think you can understand why I might want to come back to cabaret. Is that not right? Receive a round of applause for the three other performers and the pianist and Jamie. I know you'll give them another one later, but it's nice to show appreciation. I think it's always nice to receive it too. So there's a parenthesis of dough balls in my lifetime exposure to cabaret. And it began there, at Pizza on the Park, now no more. Did anyone ever go there? Yes. And then here we are tonight. More dough balls. Polenta chips, they didn't have those then. Should we have a little something? And what I wanted to share with you tonight were the songs of Boris Vian, beautifully translated by a chap called Peter Scott Presland, and put onto the piano keys by David Harrod. One more round of applause. Not because I don't trust Sam, but maybe he deserves a break. Boris. It's 1925. Boris is 5 years old, and his life is picnics stacked with jam sandwiches and running through long grass. His life is the first charabanc that came somewhere outside of Paris, shining and gleaming. His life is the sound of his mother singing him to sleep. His life is the smell of fresh bread baking, the feel of silk clothes. Boris is 10 years old. It's 1930. Boris's life is, we can't live in the big house anymore. That's where the Menuhin family are moving into. Now we have to move into the gatekeeper's cottage. Boris's life is a little more dusty around the edges and the sound of sweeping, which his mother never used to do. His life is a little more grit, a little more grain. Boris is in a white, sterile room, about 14 years old, and the doctor never talks to him, but only to his mother, and says, it's a heart issue. You must keep him safe and not let him get too excited. Boris is 25 years old. He is running through the streets of Paris as fast as he can. His mother left somewhere in the breeze behind him. Boris is dark nights deep in the jazz clubs. He is the friend of Ellington, of Carmichael. He is the friends of Miles Davis, all of them pouring in the cities of Paris to find the deep, smoky, remember those? The deep, smoky jazz bars. He blasts his trumpet with every last part of his soul, every last beat of his heart running out through that tone. Boris. He's famous. Me. I'm 19 years old. Not now, but not in 1940 either. I'm 19 years old and I'm sitting in Pizza on the Park. And I'm watching these women sing in spotlights. And I noticed that the manager of the pizza place, just the downstairs, he looks after the downstairs, he keeps looking at me, and he's very tall and thin. You can see his cheekbones sallow against the spotlight, and he's looking at me with that, that look. It's like that one Mr. Darcy gives, Colin Firth gave. People play that over and over, that Pride and Prejudice stare, that stare. And eventually he sits down next to me, and eventually he offers me anything I want on the menu. I have a Veneziana. It gives 10p to a charity in Venice, I think, showing my humble concerns. This is what's meant to happen, right? His hand is on mine. This is love. This is it. Boris is 30 years old and he's back in a white room. And the doctor is saying, look, you can't play the trumpet anymore because you're going to burst somewhere or other, so you're going to have to do something else. Now, Boris has already been a chemist for the government, an engineer for the government. He's been a trumpeter, he's been a poet, he's been a playwright. He's sort of running out of things that he could be, but he has not yet put his poems to music. what should I write about, he thinks. Well, of course, everyone says, you write what you know. Stuff that, says Boris. Shall we? Since I could put my hair in curls, since I could wear a pair of heels, joining the girls, the hunt began, the hunt for a man. Hiding in the bars and alleyways, down at the baths or in cafes, beautiful prey roams every day to catch if you can. Isn't that right? One April night, I had in my sight a cute little blonde to caress. Gave him a fright, made him take flight. He suffered a cardiac arrest. I thought I'd get back on the right track. A gorgeous brunette would do fine. Turned out the bloke was totally broke after 2 glasses of wine. Run from defeat to more defeat, searching the street from the window seat. Never say die, intensify the hunt for a man. Either they're skint or live in digs, either they're thin or fat as pigs, or highly strung or not well hung. Where is that man? But it's Monday at 8, I've got a blind date. A boy from Peru is the catch. Speaks Spanish, I've heard. Me, not a word. Sounds like an ideal match. When he's in the bag, if he's starting to flag, I will send him back home to his folks. Then I'll dress up in style like the Queen of the Nile and dance for the rest of the blokes. Look, yeah, I think that must be him. Help. Now my head begins to swim. Now that you're near, don't disappear, weak little man. Now he's giving me the eye. My mouth is going dry. Don't hesitate, just take the bait and into the pan. Blowing the horn, just like the Quan, sounding the end of the race. He's trussed up and dressed, his best suit is pressed, the registrar saying the grace. Goodbye to days in bars and cafes, now that I've caught me a deer. I'm ready to feed on the door, you can read, the hunting is off. Until next year. So I'm 20 now. Well, not now. Let's not talk about that. I'm 20, and I've moved on from the Veneziana to the Giardineria. Anyone have that this evening? And a salad. It's got to that stage in the relationship. And every night that I show up, I get to sit at my favourite table, which he has saved for me, and he puts his hand on mine. And every time he does that, I feel a little flutter in my heart. And I've seen Barb Younger. I've seen Claire Martin. I've seen Cleo Lane. I've seen Barb Younger. I've seen Claire Martin. I think it's beautiful. But I start wondering, do we ever step outside of this place? I mean, you can't really get to know someone in this environment, really, can you? I mean, you can, to a certain extent, and sometimes you really feel like singers are either seeing the whole of you, or you're seeing more of them than you've seen in a lot of your intimate partners. That kind of intimacy, though, really can't be true until you're out there in the world, you know, going for a walk in the park or something. And I think it's the same with songwriters sometimes, that you don't really fully know them until you know a little of their intimate life. And so to better understand Boris, I think we should know a little of his intimate life. Yes? This is from a biography. I think as I read it, you might understand that it was probably written in French first. They married in July 1941. Both were virgins. Boris wore a condom. It burst. Michelle became pregnant immediately. Powerful. Boris was not ready to become a father. When Michelle complained about Boris's affairs, he snapped that she should take a lover herself and learn something about sex. She said she had no interest in sleeping around. She loved him. And then, in May 1949, after the party, where they talked on the sofa, this is Michelle and Jean-Paul Sartre, the most famous intellectual in France, phoned Michelle and asked her out. On their first evening together, they talked for 3 hours in the bar of the Pont Royal. For a whole month, he and Michelle Vian saw each other almost every day. Sartre did not touch her. They talked. Michelle was deeply moved. Sartre seemed so gentle, so sensitive to her feelings. I did not speak, she said. I had no confidence. I was silent. I was always smiling, lost. Sartre taught me to speak. He told me my ideas were good. It was his view that people must think and talk. I found him very exciting. I didn't care about handsome. I liked his lips. They were the same type as Brigitte Bardot's. The upper lip, the same size as the lower lip, like his mother's. When I saw him coming, my heart began to beat. I'd think to myself, here is joy, here is fun. One evening in late December in a taxi coming home after a nightclub, Sartre kissed her, and by now Michelle was well and truly in love. Shortly after, Sartre took her home to his place. It was the afternoon. His mother was away. They made love. Boris was going around telling people that Sartre had stolen his wife. Boris now wanted a divorce. Michelle was terrified. She did not want to be caught up in a scandal, and if she were declared an adulteress, Boris might gain custody of their children. Sartre helped her. He told her not to worry. He would look after her and the children. It feels sensuous to give you money, he said. Is anyone starting to lose some respect for the greatest intellectual mind in the 20th century? But that's the thing. There are all these contradictions, and so I wonder the same thing with Vian, about how it is that someone that was such a, well, you know, the word. How is it that he managed to write songs that were not in his own voice? How is it that he managed to write songs for women that have a little more fire under them than what he gave credit to in Michelle? Hey boys, line up here. This guy's open for business, Now, I'm not cheap. I cost a lot of cash to keep. I don't just go with any creep or with guys who would skimp. You are paying this evening, are you? I'm not cheap. I only do Chelsea or Mayfair, but all my clients say I play fair. If you're in doubt, ask my pimp. This is the pavement that leads to the yellow brick road. Think of the gold in my fillings when shooting your load. Think of my knickers of mink that will keep out the cold. My fingers are dripping with ice. The queen hasn't any as nice. I'm not cheap. I've ruined guys who got too deep. My storm reduced them to a heap. They coughed up the price. I'm not cheap. All through the open air, open houses right here. I can't deny all the old friends who come and drop by. We don't sit around eating cake or trendy cocktails that I shake, no, but everyone tells me, oh, the party was great. What on earth can they be talking about? I'm not cheap. I have a younger brother to keep. My grandpa stacked up on the heap. I am their benefactor. I'm not cheap. My mother followed like a sheep after some good-for-nothing creep in ice cream manufacture. Since then I've gone my own way, though there's problems I fear. Never a daddy to keep me for more than a year. Till I knew more about men than you ever will, dear. But lay the past to rest. Now's time to feather the nest. I've got to save hard, so I'll be the richest in the graveyard. If you don't like it, you can go home and sleep. Regrets are a fake, so give me a break. You give, I'll take. I'm not cheap. Thank you. So I wondered if there might be something wounded about this chap. I wondered if there was something that made it impossible for him to, go out with me, because obviously that would be the thing, right? It couldn't be that he was just not into me. And I thought about his background as well, because I realized that someone who comes from Argentina and was the age that he was, probably when he was 5 years old, it was in the midst of the dirty war. Now, there's so many conflicts to try and remember now. I don't know who actually holds that in their memory. It's kind of overwhelming, the number of conflicts, the number of people. It's impossible, but 30,000 people were disappeared by the dictatorship in Argentina. And there must have been people, in a country that size, there must have been people that he knew of. That must have been a reason. And Boris, interestingly, didn't just stay with sweet songs. In fact, he got arrested, and he had some of his songs censored by the French government, because at the time when he was writing in the 50s, France and Algeria, and then Algerians within France were in conflict, and France was in Paris. There were many attacks on the Algerian community. And so I wondered about this even just today. I mean, I think when we made our way here today, a lot of us would have walked past a war memorial at somewhere. And they just become part of the background, and I feel like they don't have an effect. Firstly, there's so many of them as well in every station. There's so many names. I walked past one in Inverness, I think, and they were just sort of the wheelie bins from the nearby restaurant were sort of shoved in front of it because it becomes so much of the scenery. And I thought about the original purpose of those kind of being missed now, and also some important names having been left off. People that we don't get to see. And Vian commemorates some with cheeky satire, for which I think I need to pull up a chair. Not always a thing in cheeky satire. And some with great seriousness. I would like to share those with you now. I started selling weed. It didn't really sell. I moved on to ties. Men were poor as hell. So I moved on to knives and razor blades as well. Scissors, swords, files and combs of tortoise shell. I had a strawberry store, then a store for flowers. I tried fixing chairs, bidets, baths and showers. I pushed my little cart along the rutted street. I thought I would lose my mind, but now my life's complete. My Cadillac goes gliding down the Tuileries, because at last I found the key. I own a mansion house, 3 maids and a chauffeur, and all the police call me sir. These days I sell guns. Just look, I've got tons. Whoever you shoot, I've got something to suit. There's always connoisseurs who who will appreciate their charms. Come get them for your kiddies from your friendly man of arms. Come get your guns here. I pick up all your scrap to make my new machines. It fills the air with crap, but recycling's really green. It gives the artisan a trade that he can ply, and everyone can plan the house he's gonna buy. To make a little bread, you need a little fat. As long as they're well fed, they'll never smell a rat. The dole is off their backs, their kids will join the ranks. They're lining up in packs to get worn out for some francs. I've sold these pretty guns on every foreign shore, and trade's expanded more and more. From deals I've made pots, from people selling graveyard plots, though now I'm on foot like before. All my clientele have been shot to hell. They cashed in all their chips with a smile on their lips. So now I walk the streets again, footloose and fancy free. I dance a little jig because there's no one here but me. Guns going cheap. Think of all the kids who walked away one misty morning, brand new rifles in their hand. They marched so gladly to their graves. I think of all the kids who squatted shivering in the trenches, rusty rifles in their hand. They need a stone to mark their grave. Not a stone, not something bland, not from some cold official hand. It's got to live and outlive time. I want to build it from their pain. I want to build it from their terror and their looks of disbelief. And here's a world that smells so sweet, full of smiles, free as a bird. A world that's ruffled by one shot, a brand new world with bloodstains oozing through its shirt, as another life is lost. And for the men who simply stayed, their well-fed asses plonked on chairs while working out how much they've made out of the war that they declared. For all the fat and greedy scum who fill their bellies all their days and boast how wealthy they've become, they too must never be forgotten, and a monument I'd raise to every man corrupt and rotten, with my fist and with my rage. With every scorching word I've got, I'd brand the shame of what they did. Thank you. Boris's death was not quite that way. It managed it in a more, Boris style, which is that his heart, it was part of his downfall. In 1959, he went to see a preview of a film of a book that he made that he didn't even want to be made, and it was made by a bunch of actors that he didn't approve of. And in the middle of the morning's preview, he stood up and he said, "The bastards can't even do American accents," and then he fell down. And I think he would be proud of that ending. And me, in Pizza Express, Pizza on the Park, Pizza Express too, sponsored by, now 21. I love Barb Junger. I have seen her again. And by this time, though, I managed, it only took me 3 years, to find some kind of ability to actually ask a question, which is very powerful in relationships, I find, if this was a relationship. And so he walks me to the fire escape exit, which is the private exit that only staff use. And the doors open at the top, so the sun shines down, the late evening summer sunshine. And I say to him, "Out there. Why don't we go out there sometime? Would you like to?" I asked him. I broke the norm. For me, that was exciting. I hope that you're more developed than me. I asked him, "Would you like to go out sometime?" And he said that he couldn't. I said, "Well, you can't. I know that you like me because you come and you hold my hand and you give me dough balls. And you look at me in that way." And he said, "Look, I wasn't actually going to come to England. I had a life in Argentina, and 2 summers ago, I was with my fiancé, and we went on a drive out away from the city to the beach. We went on a holiday. It was a beautiful holiday. And we went over to the beach, and we looked at the western sky, at the sun setting. It was very exciting for us to travel away together. And we said that we would make promises to each other and spend our lives intertwined, and she would be with me, and I would be with her. And then we came back home. And the next morning, I don't really want to tell you the story in the way that he told me. I would rather say that she didn't. She didn't end up in a car crash, because that just sounds so like something that is made for the stage. Just at that peak of knowing exactly how life will go. She wasn't there, and neither was the life that was going to be. And so that was the time that he decided to move to England. And he said, I just can't open my heart that much anymore. And I think at that age, for the things that I'd been through up till then, I don't think I understood. But maybe I do now. Oh, swear that you love me today, for the days of our lives are so fickle, and tomorrow is not worth a nickel, and the hourglass trickles away. Oh, swear that you love me each day, every day that the earth fills with flowers, while it blesses our youth with its powers, and tells us to kiss while we may. Our love has transfigured our sight, made peacocks from crows, magnolias from briars. Our world is a garden of light, where everything grows to slake our desires. Oh, swear that you love me each day, Every day that the satiny ocean wraps our bodies in soft, soothing lotion against the heat of the sun's summer ray. How often this scene has been played, the promises made, how quickly they fade. How often the oaths that were sworn fly quickly at dawn, the bill left unpaid. Oh, swear that you love me today. Every day that our limbs are entwining, every day of our bodies combining to keep the world's hatred at bay. Oh, swear that you love me each day. Every day that our hearts keep on beating while the rhythm of our lives keeps on meeting, and we're careless as children at play. Our love has thrown open our hearts, rained jewels from the skies, unending delights. Our passion has taken apart with a laugh in its eyes the fears of the night. Oh, swear that you love me each day. Every moment a fever of pleasure, every moment a moment to treasure, every moment that's trickling away. Thank you very much. David Harrod, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Reid. I believe Jamie Anderson will come back to bid you farewell.